All right, can you call the roll, please?
Director Scobie.
Say present, Kurt.
Present.
Director Waterman.
Present.
Director Hayes is excused. Director Roth is excused. Director Rice Walker is excused. Director Gray.
Here.
And President Bradley.
Here, we have a quorum. We'll call a meeting to order.
Recommendation that fact and finding and conclusion of law pertaining to conditional use permit number 120426 issued to Hotspot Wireless Inc., care of Heatham Jabbar, to occupy 4901 North Union with retail sales, telephone, new phones, accessories on the northeast corner be approved subject to certain conditions. Recommendation that findings of fact and conclusion of law pertaining to conditional use 118997 issued to United Mart to construct a commercial building for a gas station and convenience store at 4901 North Union, zoning only, be approved subject to certain conditions, subject to the condition that the applicant comply within 30 days. From the President, an ordinance establishing and directing a public works and improvement program titled Northern Track Site with a $2 million authorization and an initial appropriation of $1 million from the Airport Development Fund at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. An ordinance establishing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller of the City of St. Louis to enter into and execute on behalf of the city an agreement and contract of sale with Northport Partners, LLC. Supplemental Agreement Number 12 to PSA Number 1043, Program Management Consultant Services for the Airport Experience Program, Lambert St. Louis International Airport. Supplemental Agreement Number 2 to PSA Number 1133, Environmental Engineering Support Consultant, Lambert St. Louis International Airport. Emergency work orders issued for the months of November and December 2014 by the Department of the President and Facilities Management Division, Board of Public Service, for emergency work and repairs requiring prompt attention. Recommendation that the Board declares as emergency action work for building to roof restoration and repair, Lambert St. Louis International Airport. Recommendation that the Board declares as emergency action work for Firehouse Number 3 painting, Broadway, Salina, and Miami Streets. Recommends approval. Recommendation that the Board approves emergency action for work for a chain link fencing installation, repair, or replacement at various parks be approved subject to certain conditions. From the Director of Public Utility, recommendation that the Board declares as emergency action repair, transmission, and differential of four-wheel drive utility tractor be approved. From the Director of Public Utilities and Streets, joint recommendation that the following permits be approved subject to certain conditions as follows. AT&T Missouri start at existing manhole in front of 4748 Eichelberger, Bora West, under the sidewalk 260 feet to the west of Dahlia, then trench south 125 feet to an alley, then bore west 192 feet to replace a defective cable. AT&T started at 2880 Scott to bore a new copper cable within the right-of-way across Scott, then bore within the right-of-way along the north side of Scott to 2675 Scott and dig a splice pit at the base of the pole at 2675 Scott. Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Missouri, started an existing manhole located on Palm at the side of 3225 North Florissant. From this manhole will bore north for 50 feet to an existing power pole at the side of 3307 North Florissant, where a 2-inch poly pipe will be placed with the fiber cable inside. Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Missouri, to start at the front of 1905 South Grand in the sidewalk at an AT&T manhole, bore and place one fiber cable east across Grand for 96 feet, entering Compton Hill Reservoir Park. Charter Communications start at the riser pole across the street from 2815 Scott. From there, bore east on Scott off the south curve line to the first pole on the west side of street of 2665 Scott. SSM Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital to encroach with one illuminated sign at the northwest corner of Granite Park and one non-illuminated sign on the southwest corner of Park and Spring. From the Director of Public Utilities and Public Safety, joint recommendation that permit for Dana R. Mills to consolidate land at 2737 and 2739 Allen in City Block 1318 be approved subject to certain conditions. From the Director of Streets, recommendation that permit for Fairmont LLC to encroach with canopy over front entry at 13 Maryland Plaza and recover existing 2 front awnings be approved subject to certain conditions. From the Director of Public Safety, recommendation that the board declares as a festival zone St. Louis Auto Show on January 23rd through the 25th, 2015, at Cole between 9th and 10th Streets for drifting demonstrations be approved, subject to certain conditions. Now we have the conditional uses.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bob Gordy, zoning plan examiner for the city, and I'll be representing the building commissioner at today's meeting. Per board order number 766, transmitted herewith are recommendations for the following conditional use agenda applications. Approval with conditions is recommended for 9 applications: 8514 Drury, 6636 Neosho, 3409 Roger, 5116 Natural Bridge, 3504 Hampton, 5852 Hampton, 4217 North Grand, 5514 Lillian, and 4101 South Grand. I request these recommendations be approved as transmitted.
Any questions from the board on the conditional uses?
If I could, that Roger address, is that, we got 3904, is it?
3409, I believe. Yeah, 3409.
3409.
Right. I hope I didn't misread that.
Any other questions on the conditional uses? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
So move.
Second?
A motion and seconded to approve the recommendations as presented. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Scobie is
He said aye.
Director Watsman.
Aye.
Director Hayes is excused. Director Roth is excused. Director Rice Walker is excused. Director Gray.
Aye.
And President Bradley.
Aye, approved. Like to consider the minutes from last week's meeting. Are there any questions, any additions, or any corrections to the minutes that were provided to you? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
So move.
Second, previous roll?
Motion and seconded to accept the minutes, call for use of previous roll. Is there any objection to use of previous roll? Seeing none, approved. Motion to accept the addendum, please.
So move.
Second, previous roll?
Motion and seconded to accept the addendum and call for use of previous roll. Any objection from the board to use of previous roll? Seeing none, approved. Motion to accept the agenda, please.
So move. I thought we just did that. So move.
Second, previous roll?
Motion and seconded, call for use of previous roll. Is there any objection to use of previous roll? Seeing none.